Hello everyone, in this video I will explain depth first search algorithm. Here we will use the stack data structure and its operations push and pop. There is an empty stack here, so that we will use it to keep track of visited nodes. It's gonna be three main steps here. First, we will push the node on the top of the stack, then add it to the output sequence, and finally mark it as a visited node. Let's get started. We can start from node A. First of all, we're gonna push it to the stack and add it to the output. And then finally we can mark it as a visited node. Now it's time to check adjacent and visited nodes of A, which are in this case B and E. Let's go for B firstly. We are pushing node B on the top of the stack, adding it to the output and marking it as a visited node. B has only one adjacent unvisited node, which is F. We are doing the same procedures for node F, pushing it on the top of the stack, adding it to the output sequence, and finally marking it as a visited node. F has two adjacent unvisited nodes, E and H. Let's go for E first. We will push E to the stack, add it to the output sequence, and mark it as a visited node. E has two adjacent unvisited nodes. They are C and D. Let's continue with node C. C is pushed on the top of the stack, added to the output sequence, and finally marked as a visited node. So we need to be careful here. C has no more adjacent unvisited node. It means that we will pop it off the stack and going back to the previous visited node, which was E. E has only one adjacent unvisited node left, which is D. We are going to push node D to the stack, add it to the output, and mark it as a visited node. D has two adjacent unvisited nodes, G and K. Let's continue with node G. We are pushing G on the top of the stack, adding it to the output sequence, and finally marking it as a visited node. G has three adjacent unvisited nodes, H, L, and K. Let's go for H firstly. We are doing the same procedures again and repeating it until all nodes are visited. So we marked H as a visited node. H has only one adjacent unvisited node, which is M. We are pushing M to the stack, adding it to the output sequence, and marking it as a visited node. M has one adjacent unvisited node, which is L. We will push L to the top of the stack, add it to the output, and mark it as a visited node. L has two adjacent unvisited nodes, node N, node K. Let's continue with node N. We're pushing N to the stack, adding it to the output sequence, and marking it as a visited node. N has no more unvisited adjacent node, so we can pop it off the stack. Let's go back to the previous node, node L. L has one adjacent unvisited node, which is K. We are pushing K to the stack, adding it to the output sequence, and finally marking it as a visited node. Now, as you see, we already visited all nodes. So now, starting from the top of the stack, we can pop all visited nodes off. Eventually, we pop them all off the stack, and the stack is gonna be empty. When stack is empty, algorithm is gonna be stopped. That is how depth first search algorithm works. Hope it was a clear explanation. Thank you so much for watching my video, and see you in the next video.